Okay. My mother told me not to speak with my mouth full. Hopefully that won't get back to her. So, I want to take this opportunity together to discuss the next steps after this boot camp. I know many of you will be here tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to working with you as I haven't been able to during most of the boot camp to consult closely on many projects. But some of you will be leaving before that. Some have already actually left, had to leave for social obligations, other priorities. And I'm not sure how many of you will be here tomorrow. You could show the hand. Wow, the dream of centuries. Okay, that's great. Yeah. That's really fantastic. For those who won't, I did think it would be important to talk about additional resources to make sure that everyone in the room is aware of some additional opportunities for learning more, opportunities for connecting, and opportunities for maintaining growth in some of the ideas that have been exposited in the boot camp, both conceptual and in terms of learning about this particular modeling package. So I provided a set of resources here. The National Institutes of Health Office of Behavioral Social Science Research has system science video libraries, some of which are quite thought-provoking, and I'd recommend to people. They're a bit older now. I think they go back nearly a decade, and they are put together by some very thoughtful practitioners and are worth looking at. The Big Book of Simulation associated with AnyLogic. Jeff probably knows more about this than I do, but I've certainly browsed it and been impressed by the contents. Jeff, do you know if this has been updated to AnyLogic 7?
No, it hasn't. I think it's still worth getting. Andre he wasn't really committing to a date for doing that.
Yeah.
Most of the instruction material is probably the screenshot version.
Yeah. So this book is focused more on AnyLogic 6, but it gives a really good sense of a lot of features of AnyLogic that have been conserved as functionality. RunTheModel.com has kind of gone through an up and down existence over the past few years, but basically it's a collection of AnyLogic models on all different topics, and it has some models that might be of interest to some of you, but it's also been encountering some headwinds due to changes in Oracle's corporation, the owner of Java's sort of policies with respect to running Java over the web. That was originally the vision of Java, that it could run over the web. But in recent years, because of security concerns, they've really made it harder to do. And I'm not quite sure how Run the Model is doing these days with it, but Jeff says it's kind of it's a little bit flaky, but some neat models on there. I thought it had improved some from a year ago. Now, I'm trying to provide, as I am wont, a set of resources. I'm committed to this. I'm committed to health as an area. I believe it's distinctive enough that, and the opportunity costs of devoting my efforts to other areas are high enough that that my focus is really on health. And I've been working to provide resources that will be responsive to people in the health area. Some of these include posters and materials and screencasts from this boot camp, and I know I'm behind with the slides, and I apologize. I know that I need to rope in the guest lecturers and get them to get their slides in, and that I'm behind on that. And I'm going to ask the TAs for help. The TAs for help in helping to speak to some of the guest lecturers so that we can get some additional slides up there. So, Aiden, I believe you have a certain acquaintance with Anahita, and perhaps you could contact her about. Oh, there she is. Okay, that's great. Anahita, if you could provide the slides, that's great. And you can do so through Aiden if you'd like. That would be great. UN, Jeff, do you think you might be able to write to UN and inquire about whether she could offer the slides? Yeah. And then, Jeff, you had some slides from Monday, too. Yeah, exactly. If we could get something, that would be great. So we'll be working on this, and I need to be prodded. I need to be poked. I need to be pursued. Okay, and we'll get those up there as best we can. Maybe did if you could also poke Joachim. Oh, great! Excellent. The Health Modeling Community website. Good. Secondly, there's this set of materials that are about the most systematic exposition that is extant of use of any logic for health modeling. It was a course I gave last year for North Carolina State University and University of North Carolina. And I went through, they told me they don't want an incubator, they want just really thorough coverage of the material. How do you use any logic for health modeling? So I gave it to them. And it was a good course. And the materials are up there cross-linked with example models and with slides. And I would recommend this is still highly current, really good. It doesn't include, for example, GIS, working to build that component of the bootcamp more, the example models. But I would recommend this to anyone. It's a really good resource, and it will have far more thorough discussion of things like calibration or things like parameter variation. Shows how to build up a parameter variation experiment from scratch. Shows how to do intervention simulations, and some more sort of intermediate level features. I have this site now. It's kind of getting dated. ABM for Health. But one of the features of it is a link to a model inventory of dozens of models that link the characteristics of those models. And I'm grossly overdue for this. And I may need some elven help for this. But fundamentally, I need to get there's probably, 3 dozen, 4 dozen models that I've shared with you folks. And I need to get them up there and list, what features of on the domain side they illustrate and what features of modeling they illustrate, et cetera, and get them nice and organized so you can go find the ones. Because there's lots and lots of different models. Even in a given area, there's sometimes, 10 models that illustrate different aspects of it. Some have open populations, some have closed populations, some have, representation of physical movement within a clinic, some it's just logical movement or what have you. And so I need to be poked on that, but we need to get an inventory up, and I do think I need some elven help. So, Aiden, since you won't be needed to work through your acquaintance with Anahita, maybe you and I can work together for this library. Yeah. Okay. There's 2 resources that I created for hybrid system science methods, and these have systematic discussions of different hybrid approaches, as well as a link to a whole swack of hybrid system science models. These are a work in progress, and I'm adding to it, but I think they're pretty good resource for people who are interested in the hybrid side. We're going to try to supplement that with more, and try to build up sort of some understanding of really what compelling hybrid models strategies are. If you have additional ideas for that, please, I'm very interested. There's a bunch of YouTube videos. Some of you know my voice from YouTube, and we're looking to refine these in a number of ways. One will be deprecating older videos, because I have a lot out there still on AnyLogic 6, which is going down in popularity. But more to the point, we're also working to take an hour and a half long videos or 2 hour long videos and to chapterize them into segments that you could zoom in via search engine to just that 5-minute segment you need, but still see the context, still be able to follow it before and after if you wanted to see the bigger context. A number of my students, including Wan Yi, who you saw, Wan Yi, who you didn't see briefly, but also Priyasri, who you did see briefly. She's been helping with this, but it's a long process. I'd love to talk with people about it, but we are working on this and are trying to get out some more accessible way of doing this. And I'll come back to this distance learning thing in a minute. Okay, so what further training opportunities are there? Well, we're going to be posting to the Health Modeling Community website. But first of all, I do maintain classes here at the U of S, and at times they have been taken by former boot camp attendees. It does involve a fair bit of work for me to sort of get set up and have the distance learning. But if anyone is like totally interested in a full semester course in this, I would welcome discussion, and we could see if something could be done possibly. There's an introductory course, and then for the really advanced people in the room, people like Anahita, people like Kurt, and people like Winchill, and several others here. We also are going to have a sort of intermediate/advanced project that's going to be very advanced course that's going to be quite project-oriented. One of the reasons I'm talking about these is because these both include projects which students look for, and they look to partner with people like you to advance project ideas. And it's not like quite having a workshop of elves, but it's pretty good. And we'll come back to this opportunity. But there is an intermediate level boot class that I'm planning to roll out in January, which will have more in-depth discussion of certain materials. I teach a course together with Ross Hammond and Elizabeth Brook. Ross is at Brookings. I've mentioned him several times, and Elizabeth is a professor at University of Michigan. And 4 weeks ago, Kurt and I went down, and Kurt was a TA, and I helped co-teach this course. This course is a very different slant. It uses NetLogo rather than AnyLogic for most of it. I have AnyLogic for hybrid modeling and for system dynamics, but it is a course which offers a lot of value, and the three ways, sort of the three viewpoints being captured make it especially rich. Each of us has different motivations for modeling. We tend to express things in different ways, but in ways that are amazingly compatible. It's just that different perspectives. Ross is a social scientist, a political scientist by training, and I'm depending who you speak to, a fallen computer scientist or someone who's gone over to the dark side. I don't spend my time trying to make computers go faster. I actually try to improve aspects of the world, and we have very different sort of angles, but we have very consistent messages in some areas. So here, I would recommend this to people. I've tried really hard over the years to keep this boot camp financially accessible. I know it's not easy for students and faculty, and I have this open-ended offer for people to come back, to build community, and to come back with low barriers in place. This course, because of Michigan's rules, it's got a high price tag, and none of us like it. We may move it elsewhere next year. But just be aware that there's some, if you go look at it, none of us like the price tag on it. It's something like $5,000, I think, or something like that, which is a lot. But it is a full week course, and it's really rich. Scott Page has a pretty good course on model thinking on Coursera. I've heard several people say good things about it. It is not in health only. Scott is a great guy. I know him. He's head of the Center for Complex Systems at Michigan. Wonderful chap, and I count him as a good colleague. And the course is very thoughtful. It is, as I say, it's not about health. It's a very popular course in Coursera. I think Kurt has taken it, if any of you are interested in learning more. And I would recommend it. Now, next year, in this very room, well, probably in this room, we will be holding another set of boot camps. And our plan was this year to have 2 boot camps, a basic boot camp in June, which would be really, I know you might be skeptical, slow. It wouldn't be, full on fire hose. And it wouldn't aspire to an incubator. It would actually be more focused on getting you sea legs, building up things really slowly. And that was our plan. And then the idea was this boot camp would be an intermediate level boot camp in an incubator where we'd really try to drive projects forward. But a lot of the basics would have been handled by June. And some people might come back for both. Now, that got derailed this year because we had a special request for June from our Ministry of Health to do a big event for them, which we did, and which was successful. But it was a closed event. We couldn't. It was for health regions and Ministry of Health and eHealth and HQC, Health Quality Council, and it was limited. So we couldn't actually do what we wanted to do this year. And personally, I feel we tried to pack a little bit too much into this event. I think next year we will go to this basic and sort of intermediate form is my current thinking. We are also getting increasingly many requests to give tailored versions of this boot camp for particular areas. Connie's got one request in to do something for infant and maternal mental health. And then we've got other requests for social determinants of health and health disparities. We've got some other interests in the health economics area. I'm going to Australia in early November for delivering a boot camp there from a health economics perspective. And I want to highlight these boot camps, not because I'm interested in pushing product, but because from my experience, if each of you came together with colleagues in that particular area, I could aim examples specifically at that area. We could build up, examples from that area, and I could be speaking the language of that area rather than general sort of health terms. And in general, from the collegial interactions, it can also be very, very fruitful. We've done a number of these now, and I really like the feel of them. So there's 2 things about that. If you want to know about particular areas, am I going to give a boot camp in X, Y, or Z? Please bring it up. Communicable disease would be another one. But a second thing is, if you're interested in sponsoring one or something like that, let me know as well. I obviously care a lot about these boot camps. I think they contribute value, and I'm aware that it's expensive for people to travel here. So last year, Taba knows, we had a group down at UCLA. Rather than flying 20 people up into Saskatchewan, maybe they were a bit afraid with that name. They brought us, myself and a couple TAs down there, and we had a nice little boot camp devoted to sort of obesity, childhood obesity with a particular focus. And it was great. And we enjoyed it, and it helped build a foundation for further work. So these boot camps at the U of S are regulars, and they're a bit generic. And in some ways, they're good because they do mix people. But if you're interested in tailored material for your area, suffice it to say that, if I was doing something for service networks, I'd really pare down a lot of certain material and really push on others. And if you're interested, we can talk. Now, on the conference side, many of us go to conferences. Some of us are academics. Some of us are practitioners, but we go to conferences to connect and get understanding of latest trends, et cetera. There are a number of conferences I want to highlight that are relevant. This last one actually needs an updating. One for which I serve as a conference chair is the SBP conference, Social Computer Behavioral Cultural Modeling and Prediction. This is sort of a very interesting mix of health modelers, folks who do modeling in other areas, folks who do machine learning and big data, And it has a substantial health side, and I'm really sort of building up that, but it has for years. Patty Mabry from OBSSR at NIH has been highly involved in it, as have number of other of my health colleagues. So I really would recommend SBP. I think it's a really strong conference for folks to get into the community, and it's offered each year at the beginning of April. People are interested, you could talk with me. Winter Sim is pretty good. It tends to be somewhat more leaning towards discrete event modeling, but it has a significant amount of ABM these days, and it has a fair bit of FD, and it has quite a lot of health. Not dominant, but it's quite good set of sessions. And this year it's in Huntington Beach. I'm going to be there. Jeff is going to be there. Oh, no, Jeff will not be there. Sorry. Kurt will be there. At least Jeff doesn't know it yet. Jeff is not going to be there. Kurt will be there. Dylan may be there, and several others. Oh, that is beginning of December. 6th of December? 6th or 8th or something like that. 6th to 9th. Thanks. Huntington Beach. I like the feel of the conference. It's not bad. Some years they have it with a joint AnyLogic conference, but that hasn't been for a few years. There's this AnyLogic conference with Informs. I think it's the second or third year it's been offered with Inform, or second year. And that's in November 4th and 5th. This is in Philadelphia. And I think a lot of it is quite industrially oriented, but there may be some health components there. Well, isn't it? I mean,
actually, I think you were understating the case. The AnyLogic conference is quite literally case studies by industry. If you want academic papers, it's not the place to go to. Having said that, I believe I will be presenting the pharmaceutical marketing model that I built for a client at that conference, which would, but it has a lot of patient-doctor interactions and how to model them in there. That's actually the primary part of the model. There's that. And AnyLogic has made the strategic decision to hook their conference up with Informs rather than Winter Sim, right, for various Infantry reasons.
Okay. So thanks, Scott. The Microsimulation International Conference I haven't been to. I think Jeff went there some years ago. It's focused on microsimulation, and my colleague Michael Wolfson has been a prominent feature at some past issues with it. It's focused on microsimulation, which tends to be a certain flavor of what you might call agent-based modeling. Traditionally, it's tended to underplay agent-agent interaction, agent-environment interactions. But these days, it's meshing quite a lot with what we might call agent-based modeling in many ways. It's certainly individual-based modeling. And Michael argues, and I tend to agree, that essentially they're merging into the same tradition. They certainly have a tremendous amount of overlap. And I would recommend thinking about that. The System Dynamics Society conference is focused predominantly on system dynamics, although they for many years have had sort of an agent-based track, not always outfitted with the best room or the best circumstances. But Jeff and I have presented many times on that, and there's a good group of people there who are open-minded and are interested in hybrid modeling and have actually proposed things. So folks like Jim Dugan, for example, or Hajir Rahmandad, who's quite prominent these days. These are folks with a lot of knowledge on the health side and some thoughtful sort of understanding of different dynamic methods. It's quite applied, and that's probably a good thing. I mean, it's quite focused on real world making a difference, or at least maybe I overstate that. It's focused on a lot of real world problems and often ones that seek to really shift things at a practical level. So it's quite good. Oh gosh, it's Delft this coming year in Netherlands, Delft. it kind of it bounces back across the Atlantic, and recently it's been bouncing to Boston. it bounces to sort of one of several hotels in Boston for the North America side. So the past 2 or 3 times it's been in Boston on when it's on the U.S. side, and it's in late July, sort of second to last week of July, roughly, each year. Kind of inwardly turned, but over time it may get better, and there's certainly a lot of good folks there. You will sometimes see Jeff and I there, as well as some of our more thoughtful colleagues. The last one actually needs to be updated. It's now the IEEE ICHI, International Conference on Health Informatics. And I would recommend that as well, although it's more focused on the health informatics side. They tend to have some agent-based modeling. Some of the folks from, for example, Keith Eubank's group at Virginia Tech, Virginia Biotech Institute, tend to go there. And again, I like the feel of the conference. Okay, in terms of sort of books and resources there, I've listed a few books, for these 2 areas. Moorcroft books, I can't remember what it's called. Intro to System Dynamics, Jeff?
Something like strategy modeling.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Business Dynamics is sort of the central textbook these days in System Dynamics. It's a quite good book. Despite its names, it has quite a few examples outside the business area, including a number in the health area, and it's very thoughtful. It includes discussion of causal loop diagrams. I think it's chapter 3, and a lot of good stuff that I think emphasizes some of the best features of System Dynamics, and I'd recommend it. Andy Ford has a book, Modeling the Environment, that's for those of you who are more interested in models that cross the veterinary science lines or models that involve ecological components. It's quite good. I kind of like this book by Steele Railsbeck and Volker Grimm, although it's quite focused on net logo. It does have some interesting net logo models, but a lot of thoughtful sort of commentary by them. This is the same chap, Volker Grimm, who spoke at who published that article in Science on pattern-oriented modeling, the role of agent-based modeling. And I mentioned that big book of simulation modeling. Josh Epstein is, here's the Science article here, pattern-oriented model of agent-based complex systems. I like Volker Grimm's, some Volker Grimm's thinking. Josh Epstein also has some interesting sort of thoughts in some of these articles. And Robert Axelrod's book on the complexity of cooperation is a little bit interesting as well. It contains the first discussion I know of it's called the model docking process of incremental development. Okay, this is updated. I updated these slides before, and somehow they got lost. But this is most emphatically now changed to the health modeling. www.healthmodelingcommunity.org. Is that right, Jeff? .org. This is kind of going to be deprecated in favor of this community, so deprecated. These 2 things are somewhat relevant. I would also mention, Jeff, the Insight Maker Health, right?
Well, InsightMaker.com, the tag is healthcare, health-based care at the moment.
Yeah, healthcare areas. Jeff has dozens of models on there that are not only extremely thoughtful, but in the health area, I'll be with you in just a sec, very diverse in their coverage, bring in some much needed fresh ideas and cross-fertilization. For example, System Dynamics has long been the area where people have concentrated on sort of regulatory processes associated with perception and learning and change in a richer way than has been done in agent-based modeling. Not because of some shortcoming inherently in agent-based modeling. It just hasn't been part of the community's sort of emphasis. And Jeff has done a very nice job illustrating, for example, double loop learning as a construct in a way that might be leverageable in agent-based modeling. Jeff also has delightfully illustrated models. He's this master of clip art. I have no idea how he obtains this clip art with such prolific tendencies. Did you folks get to see the Insight Maker? Yeah, brilliant stuff. You can go in and explore it interactively, expand things, get extra explanations, get references from it. Jeff has put a huge amount of time into it, and I think to good effect. And I really have benefited from my interactions with it. So I'd recommend these areas. Insight Maker does provide a way of cloning these and sort of then extending them. But the health modeling community, this is where we're putting our emphasis going forward. And your folks' suggestions are key to this. So I love some of the ideas like that Robin had. Robin brought up yesterday, the day before, some questions for me, and we decided we really want to add an anonymous question mode, so people can ask questions without any sort of fear that people are going to somehow judge them badly for bringing that up. We're also seeking to. I'm hoping that we can add models there towards a model inventory that can be tagged with, again, domain area. What methodological features does it show? What domain sort of does it touch on? What version of it is? Who's the creator? A lot of sort of relevant information that could be used to search for models or otherwise sort them, filter them into groups. And we'll be talking with Dylan about that. The most valuable thing would be is if you folks could provide feedback and say, could you add a feature for this? And I loved hearing some of those things on Monday, but maybe after this boot camp, you'd have additional ideas. So please, if you could come forward or post to that site, be good. One thing I will note, because some people had trouble, I think, is that there are many features that are not available unless you log in. So log in early and log in often. Because if you don't, you may be stymied and frustrated because you can't go answer questions, you can't post things, and that's by design. We don't want people posting malware that that destroys your computer. We want to have a community that's logged in. Okay, now many of you will leave this boot camp with the hope of finding some partners to help advance this work. A considerable amount of Jeff and my time spent together over the past few years on each trip has been spent on this area. How do we help people find partners? How do we help get complementary skill sets together? And in general, I would say, and again, I don't know why I'm missing the latest version of these slides, but I would say, this website, the health modeling community. This website is designed specifically with this as one of the major goals, to help people find partners. And there's a find partners element of it that you can use to try to aid that. Naturally, networking among these participants, the TAs. How many people would like to see a TA auction scheduled tomorrow? Okay. Okay. So I'll ask them. Obviously there's a lot of opportunities here, and I would encourage you to speak to my TAs. I like my TAs to have opportunities to be able to dabble in things, and I like them to be able to be encouraged to take internships, to explore project opportunities with others. And my hope is that if you can find a TA who's engaged, interested in your project, and would be interested in trying to help advance it some even after you've left here, I would say power to you. I know several of my TAs have been hired by formal participants, to do some work or to advance the model to a basic stage. And I certainly encourage creativity along those lines. And hopefully there's some pairings even among those who have attended as participants. The community site, I'd ask if you try to find partners, please try to do it on there. We're trying to get this first critical mass on the site so that more people come. Dylan tells me the one way a site most commonly fails is that it looks dead. And so if we can get this initial critical mass, it will be path dependent and it may take off, where otherwise all that work may have come to naught. So let's see what we can do. There's a LinkedIn group which is active for AnyLogics, but it's not health specific. And again, I think health has enough textured issues having to do with the data sets involved, issues having to do with what the research questions are, issues having to do with the methodologies, issues having to do with the statistics that are used, the team formation, the context of the funding, all these different areas, and most importantly, in a lot of the texture of the health challenges and healthcare challenges, that I really do think we need something specific to health. And so the LinkedIn group, while it is there and while it encourages you to monitor it, you shouldn't count on it as kind of your primary vehicle, would be my encouragement. If you are, interested in finding partners, sure, speaking with me could be useful. I know we have some amazing people who are attendees to this, who have amazing technical skills. People like Lena, for example, back there. People like Ante Prodan, who is quite extraordinary in his skills. Coming with a depth of methodological strength that could be useful. And I might know of other people who are looking around. Mentioned the conferences, which are great mixing places. My modeling courses each year have student teams that are looking for projects. They need a stakeholder, external, to the class, who is willing to spend some time with them to help point them in a direction. And I'd like to encourage you to think about this, partly because of the adage, fail early, fail often. I mean, these projects can go two ways. Some projects have been really, really successful, have led to fascinating models that have changed my way of thinking of what's possible even with modeling in certain areas. And those have been great projects. There are several projects that are a cooking, and I'd point out here Anahita and Trisha's project, for example, was demonstrated today. It's just fantastic stuff. And there's a number of other projects from that same class that are really inspiring to me. But even if a project doesn't work out, it may fail for reasons that you can learn from. So when you really find a partner close at hand, you'll know mistakes to avoid. You'll know avenues that didn't work out. You'll have a different idea of how to approach it. So it's really useful, whether it's successful or not, to advance it. And we can't, student teams, we can't promise that it'll be successful or not. But what I can promise is that these are students who will, work seriously to advance a project in a defined time, and at the end of that 3 months, you will have something in hand and some learning that's been secured from it. So think about it. Undergrads, grads, good stuff, and I'd be involved in helping to provide some additional guidance. Yes?
So is there a place on the community site if there's ideas for projects and things like that?
Yes. Finding partners. The finding partners part of the site.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That you would just post an idea. Okay.
That's what I do. Jeff, do you have any comments on that? So the question was, is there a place on the community website for posting about projects to let people notice?
Yeah, you can put it in finding partners. So the idea is, I suggest you put that as just notification that you're working on a project, even if you're not quite looking now. So perhaps, other people can then approach you, even informally. So I think, that's kind of where it is now. We've probably changed the wording to be
that's good. Yeah, so I think that's probably the best place, and I think this last one is now sort of under there. Okay, where's this boot camp going? Well, where it's going will be shaped by feedback you give. I'm really interested each year in understanding kind of what your thoughts are about how it can be improved, et cetera. One way we're really investing is kind of Khan Academy like videos, and we're working at exercises that provide sort of successive levels of detail to go from what you're trying to do to how. That book of tutorials, step-by-step tutorials, it's a good start, but what we'd really like is tutorials that challenge you with a high-level idea sometimes, and you can unpack the answer to whatever degree you want. You could go into it and see if you could struggle with it, and then if you're having trouble, you could expand a first level of answer, which would give you some guidance, but not too much detail. And then, you might succeed in completing it, or you might want a bit more information on particular steps and expand them. So we're interested in sort of didactic support. And we're interested, Jeff has long identified this need for community building as part of the boot camp. Build up community. This should not be about isolated events like this. It should be about linking people up, establishing a basis for communication, and for sharing information, and it should be about joining a community fundamentally, not going to a solitude of an event and going back and being alone. So this is what we're trying to work on. Any ideas you have that would help that would be most welcome. We have thought of all sorts of reconfigurations of this boot camp. One idea would, this will really scare you. One idea would be to have 2 weeks successively of boot camp, where it's kind of the teaching in the first week and the incubator in the second week, or have an extensive incubator where over the time it delivers. Another configuration I've thought of is restricting the number of people so we could have a better balance between TAs and projects. So every project can have sort of a favored TA, although I like the experience of TA pools sharing ideas. But the point is we're very interested in reconfigurations of the boot camp, even if it's radical stuff. So if you can provide suggestions, that would be great. I have been poked many times over the years about the book idea. And I've actually started in secret on routes towards that, but I'm getting mixed signals about whether it's worthwhile. It costs a lot. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Maybe I should be putting my cleaned up transcripts of my talks online and just make them available. This is something Jeff has tended to favor. Books are not the primary medium for disseminating ideas now, and why put all that effort into making it happen? If people have thoughts on that, I would welcome them. If you think a book would be really useful, please let me know. It would be focused on health, system science methods in health, and would probably be a fairly fat tome, judging by experience. So this is the book. Now, this last thing is something that I've committed to, repeat attendance without charge. That's something I'm just so happy to see folks like Chris attending, Robin attending here, of course Scott here, although in an honorary Uber TA sort of role as well, and Luz Maria and many others in the room actually. I think this is really helpful. If you have ideas about it, please come and talk with me. But it's about building community. And I know it was kind of crowded this time, but, I think it was worth it in terms of having people back who had some exposure, some experience, wanted to reconnect, wanted to sort of update their knowledge to AnyLogic 7. Next year we'll probably be head over heels into 7.3 and can talk all about the database connectivity, drawing data from databases without creating cells and good stuff like that. Yes, Scott?
Actually, you had a couple comments before on First book about Sturman's business dynamics book. Every business dynamics model from that book is given to you in any logic. It's already built them for you. So definitely can't suggest that book enough. The other one is that I actually have a reference to discrete modeling if anyone's interested.
Great. Could you send it to me?
Yeah, it's Dr. April Law's simulation analysis. It's quite literally when I took my discrete simulation course, it was called the Blue Bible of simulation. I mean, of course, I didn't know there were other types back then. But he focuses mainly, kind of like Sturman, on stuff outside of the model. He focuses a lot on input data analysis, output data analysis. It's very important for simulation and less important for the others, so just like that. Finally, about the Analogical User Group on LinkedIn, I haven't been as active there as I'd like lately, but I'm generally very active. In that place right now, I'm trying to change it up to effort. Right now, that thing is basically a place to do low-level tech support. Like, I have my model, it came to this error, what's wrong? Or how to do something very, very minor, not a large focus. I tried to write a couple posts on multi-method modeling theory, not health necessarily restricted, but just in general. People like to post it, no one else is posting anything about it, and someone's kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. But just to give you an idea of where to go with various opportunities.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. This issue, again, of finding partners, but it's more than finding partners. It's actually finding expertise, and some of that may be for short-term needs. Like, I'm running into this area. I have a presentation 2 days from now. I need to get this thing fixed. Or it may be, I'm looking for a long-term partner who could serve as the lead modeler for this link. Or it may be I need someone I want to be able to consult with occasionally when I need to write some Java code and I don't know, what's going on, or when the model's really slow and I need to improve its performance. There's all sorts of needs for sort of connecting, some more persistent and long-term, some really short-term but urgent, some that might involve some willingness to actually pay for something, others which are more, I'm looking for some exchange of ideas and suggestions. We're trying to support all of those on that site. And I would welcome ideas about how we do that most effectively. It's been on our mind. And the final thing I would say, for people like the Kurtz of the world, the Winchels of the world, the Dylans, not so much Dylan now that he's graduated, but Raheem and Amin and Aiden, this whole issue of opportunities that might be longer term. Some of these are co-ops, sort of shorter term experiences, say in a lab or an industry, internships, theses related opportunities. This is something I've talked with Connie a fair bit about, contracts to do work. In a particular area, or longer-term partnerships. All these are types of mechanisms we've undertaken or invested in or what have you. And finally, the student class projects, which are sometimes the start of something good. So, there are these things in the background as opportunities. And I guess, an additional thing is hiring one of my students. I'd like to place my students where their talents are appreciated. And I'd like to especially place them in the health area. Keep them from going over to the dark side of marketing or something like that.
Health marketing.
What's that? Social marketing, I'm very open to. Other types of marketing, I'm very not open to. But I am interested in seeking to place students in good positions with people who really care about the issues and can put their skills to use. So if you are interested in that, let me know, and I'm looking for opportunities for my students on an ongoing basis at any of these levels. Kurt did fantastic work in a 3 or 4 month period for our Ministry of Health that made a night and day difference about their willingness to invest in a large-scale simulation modeling project now being led by UN. And it was Kurt's co-op that really pulled that off. So even a small co-op can sometimes have big consequences which are lasting for years, which are now involving Jeff and me, as well as UN and a much larger sort of set of machinery. So please please think creatively about this, and I'm happy to talk. So those are all the slides that I have in this kind of wrap-up. I'm looking forward to engaging with many of you over the next day and really driving things forward. But any closing sort of comments on this presentation from you, or suggestions, or what have you?
You'll post these slides?
Indeed. I will try to do that tonight before I sleep. Other comments or questions? Any gaps? Yeah, Robin.
So, in looking at wanting to do this more and more in the future, and realizing that a lot of the challenge is not being able to do what the PAs can do, I mean, is it really that it would be, you'd always need to have somebody like that, or would you recommend going and taking a Java class?
No.
Or are there other things that, is it really just about doing it over and over and over again, that you get to a level where,
no.
So there's the programming, there's the
Right.
math, there's the stats.
That's exactly right.
There's all those areas that,
That's right.
or is it, like, will we be able to have, some of your
Right.
guys, I mean, is it really about, I don't
Guys and gals. I mean, Anahita is Uber.
what?
Anahita is an Uber TA, and several others. Yeah, guys and gals. Yeah.
If we get computer scientists, they might not know how to do the modeling.
Oh, totally. Okay, so I think this is a wonderful question. You've cut to the heart of something that's very important, and it's something Jeff and I have spent a while discussing. And one realization I had, it takes a long time for certain things to get through my cranium, and this one took years. And I, hello, what's going on in there? But I realized at one point that I was trying to actually, with all my students, I was trying to put them into a sausage factory and turn out like the perfect Uber modeler. There'd be a modeler came out who was really, really skilled in statistics and skilled in health science concepts and terminology, had taken biostats and epidemiology, but was also really, really good at the continuous math side and strong programmer and could do all sorts of stuff with system dynamics models, agent-based models, discrete event models, and that's a high bar. Would you agree, Kurt? And it was a worthy bar, but it was a high bar. But then I realized, hello, it's actually not. It's not about doing the key benefit. It actually does not come from turning all of them through a sausage factory into the same sausages. It actually comes from exploiting the complementarity of them, from recognizing the fact that they have different perspective strengths, sort of depths of understanding in different areas. And really it's about putting together effective teams and sort of making sure the complementarities can come out and really be realized and where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. I really do believe this. Scott Page has this great book that Curtis read on diversity. It's called The Difference. And I'd recommend it. It's a great book. Anyone here, I'd say should read it. And it's basically about diversity is not it's not a thing we try to overcome. It's not something that we try to sort of have to compensate for and make up for. It's something that is enabling for many types of circumstances. It's about the ecosystem, not about just the apex predator, but about the whole food web, et cetera. Not to think of TAs in the context of food webs, but the point is that it's about the complementary. And one of the things that I also had the realization was, this boot camp should not be about everyone coming here and me churning out through a sausage factory sort of would-be modelers, some of whom are less capable as modelers than others along a very one-dimensional kind of view. It's actually about team formation. It's actually about enabling complementary teams and bringing together the capacity to deliver with people from very different backgrounds. So while I'm, the computer scientist part of me is hesitant to tell you don't take Java, while the applied math part of me is resists against saying, you don't have to take any math or study that it won't be useful. What I will say is that I think, while you could aspire to that, it may be that your primary contribution comes elsewhere. It comes from being part of a team. I mean, look at the way you and Kurt have worked together, right? It's about being part of a bigger whole where you're playing a key role, but you're not trying to twist yourself out of your sort of areas of foremost contribution to sort of in a exotic attempt to try to, be the perfect generalist, the Renaissance woman or what have you. And I think there's a truth to that. And so we're trying to build teams now. That's what the boot camp's about. It's trying to make team formation possible, bring people together who wouldn't otherwise be together. We've talked about speed dating on the side of team formation. We've talked about trying to bring people from many different backgrounds so that they can mix and learn from each other, et cetera. And we've got a long way to go, but it's my avowed sense that this cannot be about turning out, people judged across one yardstick of how good a kind of core modeler they are. I argued in the first day that increasingly modeling is not a matter of just someone goes off in the back office, builds a model, and answers your question or gives you a black box model. It will profoundly shortchange its potential if that's what it's limited to. Increasingly, it needs to be teams, many of whom people on the team understand the model, can interact with it, can run it with different assumptions, can interrogate it to what its basic structure is and understand its basic assumptions, and can tweak it here and there. And those people, 99% of them may not be, or 90% of them may not be capable of building it up from the scratch, but they're capable of using it for insight and critically improving it, spotting inconsistencies, using it to help it learn more quickly and spot issues that need to be corrected so the model can, as a process, can learn more effectively over time. That's what we need these days, not more back office modelers. We have enough of them, and frankly, I think we'll get much better gains by having modeling teams, modeling communities, learning communities, around the model as a reference point, as a boundary object that they can all understand and communicate about. That's what we need in this world, and that's what AnyLogic allows. This is why I'm teaching AnyLogic rather than teaching repast. Because, if I showed you repast code, probably 90% of you would run out of the room screaming. It wouldn't be much better with ModGen code. I teach AnyLogic because it is accessible across teams. So whatever we can do to help build teams, I think that should be a key priority. Jeff may have some utterances to make on this as well.
I probably do, but I'm brain switched off.
Okay. We'll defer the... Okay. Okay. Point well taken. Yes.
I do have to comment. I will say that I have been eating, drinking, living, breathing, dying, if you will, AnyLogic for over 3 years now. I mean, quite literally, I've used it every day. So, for example, I give my coach to most of the people I do my training class for. I arrived my first day of work at AnyLogic in September 2012. I showed up, they said, hi, welcome, here's the training material for the basic and advanced courses that they used to have. You're giving this class in a week. That was my complete and total onboarding in AnyLogic. And if you want to talk about pressure, that was not the best way of learning. Okay? Since leaving AnyLogic and having my own company, which I'm a lead, I can tell you without exception that the best course I have, such as the one I have worked currently with Emily, is because we have not just a community. It's that we have what makes a community is shared understanding. It's like, it's not your job to be able to code. It's your job to be able to understand what the coder's job is and what he's contributing to the overall process. And that's what this bootcamp is all about, is shared experience that means shared understanding and knowledge. That's how we can share experience instead of just, it's not, you and me walking side by side in the same path. It's you and I walking together. That's a very different but very nuanced and important difference. That's what I think is Because, I mean, I'm not the best Java coder in the world. Like I said, I've had exactly one class, an undergraduate class in Java programming, or object-oriented programming. I have had several in simulation modeling. So I can tell you for certain fact, I make my living using a software that's Java-based without having a whole lot of Java information or experience, except tool hard knocks training. Okay? But what I am good at is conceptualization and turning what you guys think of as this is my problem into the model. You know, that's what I do. I think some of you have seen that this week. So I can't do my job without you. And, you know, you guys need the model, and that's why you're asking me to do stuff. So it is a very team-oriented thing. And I can say this, project we've had where we didn't act as a team, where my program manager was just telling me what his client wanted, and I was trying to tell him what's going on. Those are all failures. Because guess what? Requirements changed because no one understood what I needed versus what they needed or what they wanted. You know, scope creep happens all the time. It's a basic software engineering problem. But the point is that when we have a focused team, it works so much better. I can easily see when I'm going to get through just by my productivity. You know, how much am I getting done every day? So that would be my answer to your question. This is about shared understanding and comprehension of, you know, the roles and the information in those. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Those are helpful comments, and quite aligned with what we've been talking about. So you know, this is a discussion. It's a discussion and a discourse that will be going on the website. I'm hoping the health community website, and I would put in an entreaty to see if we can make that our point of big communication starting today for a lot of this. The buses will be arriving very soon. The bus may be arriving within minutes. So I feel like duty bound to let you know that we'll be coming. If any of you would like to chat now, I'd be happy to do so. Tomorrow, I'll also be delighted to interact with many of you. So thank you so much for your patience with your contributions to this course, with all your thoughts and your suggestions for so many of the aspects of it that we've been able to learn from. And I'll hope to see most of you tomorrow. But let's give everyone a hand for all the contributions they've made. And finally, just because I think credit needs to be given where credit is done, I'd like the TAs to come up to the front of the room. Sorry?
Tomorrow, what time do you start?
Same time. Yeah. Hey. Thanks so much. Very good. Credit where credit is due. They help keep this whole thing workable and really provide the possibilities at many levels. So appreciate your joining with me for thanking them. Thanks a bunch. And we'll hope to see many of you tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, like I guess YouTube now has support for live events, apparently. And so you can somehow leverage YouTube infrastructure for it. I have done it for with what's called Collaborate, which is a platform for teaching in the classroom. And I've had bootcamp attendees who continue on to discuss that, and they can see my slides, and they can ask questions, and it works pretty well. I mean, it's not without its issues, and every class, takes a minute. couple minutes to set up and so on, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm very open to it. Yeah, no, totally. But I think the idea of giving webinars, like having some of my talks cast out is a good idea. To have that interactive part, because when I post them on YouTube, a lot of people view them, but there's not that easy way of asking questions. Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'd like to have. So I really like it. Thanks very much. Yeah.
But we never did connect around, contract, and if we needed to talk to the university.
Mm-hmm.
Several weeks gone by, so
right.
I'm hoping that we didn't need to do that. It did cross my mind.
Yeah. So
and we should. I don't know if I.
Mm-hmm.
There's two things.
Yep.
Should we try to do the contract tomorrow before we leave, or should we just leave